The Mauryan Empire. In this small essay, we will only cover the highlights of the land revenue aspects and as well as the urban economy that existed during the Mauryan Empire. As regards land revenue, during the Mauryan Empire, the land revenue collections were organized to extract the maximum surplus from the people. Land tax called bhaga was the main item of revenue, and it was very high, and it was levied at the rate of 1/6 of the produce of the agriculture. Share of cropping was another way in which the sharecroppers were provided with equipments, seeds and land, but half the products went to the state. A tax called pindakara was paid by those practicing animal husbandry. Villages had to supply provisions to the royal army passing through their territories. There was a hiranya, that was basically a tax paid in cash because hiranya meant gold. There was also tax called bali, which was from the Vedic times that had continued, and all these taxes burdened the peasantry at large. In Arthashastra, there was a mention of tax called pranama. In case the state fell short of its needs, it was 1/3 or 1/4 of the produce of the agriculture. Now, as regards the urban economy, especially during Ashoka's empire, that is 250 BC. In this, the security provided by the Mauryan rule enabled the commerce to blossom. Major trade routes to West Asia and Central Asia passed through the northwest India along the river Ganges and also the Himalayan foothills. Patliputra was the capital of the Mauryas, and it had a strategic location. It was connected by rivers and roads in all the 4 directions. The opening of the communication in the Indian subcontinent also fostered the trade. River transport had improved and the forests were cleared. Peaceful relation with the Greeks by Bimbisara and Ashoka is known to have flourished the foreign trade. Trade during this period was linked to the production and its organization. Craft production in northern India was organized on a guild, that is Sreni lines, SRENI. When the number of artisan groups had increased, the guilds inhabited particular areas. These guilds worked and lived together and served the purpose of organizing and controlling the petty producers. The guilds made collections of taxes easy for the state. Since they concentrated locally and specialized in a particular craft, there was a strengthening of that particular trade. Craft during this period was hereditary, and there was a specialization that was handed down from father to son. These guilds became very powerful in the post-Mauryan period. A historian, Metathesis, mentions artisans as one of the 7 castes or classes. The guilds during this period were metallurgists, carpenters, leather workers, painters, textile workers, etc. Merchants were also organized along the guild lines. Certain kinds of merchants were connected to a particular artisans who made distribution of goods easier and inhabited the common areas. During this period, the state itself also engaged in trade and commodity production in the areas that were essential for its functioning, and it yielded a good revenue for the state. The state converted some crafts into small-scale industries by directly employing armor makers, ship builders, builders in stones, etc. State goods, that is Rajapanya, were sold by the state servants. The assistance of the well-organized and widespread private traders was also sought in this process. The superintendent of commerce, known as Pannodhaksha in Arthashastra, fixed the price of commodities and also intervened whenever there was a glut of any commodity. There was the office of the Sansa Daksha, that is superintendent of markets, who was to safeguard against the fraudulent practices of trading class. The superintendent of weights and measures, that is Pautovadvaksha, was entrusted with the enforcement of standard weights and measures. There was also superintendent of ships, that is Navadvaksha, who regulated the river traffic and collected the ferry charges. The superintendents were also appointed for the weaving industry, brewers, the state liquor shops, etc. This was the way the state controlled the regulated private trade. There was also monopoly of mining and metallurgy. The superintendent of mines, known as Akaradvaksha, and his chief function was prospecting for the new mines and reopening the old and misused ones. There was also a superintendent of salt who looked after the salt mines. The state sold a lot of metals to traders, artisans, guilds, goldsmiths and individual manufacturers, thereby making a lot of money for the state. Currency during the time became a common in the Mauryan period because of the development of commerce, and money was used for trade and salaries. The largest number of punch-marked coins, mostly silver, were found to have been used. Urbanization began in the Mauryan period and it also grew very fast. The manufacturers of the goods, merchants and the system of exchange began to spread from the Ganges Valley to the western, central India, Deccan and southern India. Proliferation of the rural settlements and the prosperity of Gahapatis expanded to the social base of the urban centers. Taxes received from the towns also paid rich dividends to the state exchequer. Numerous tribes were existing at the level of Stone Age. They were won in favor of a settled agrarian life and they were converted into members of the society during this period. Their disintegration was caused by the expansion of the settled agricultural practices in the areas under the state government. Now we will summarize the key points. Taxation system during the Mauryan period was elaborate. There were taxes on farm produce, animal husbandry, and villagers had to pay expenses to their royal army. Urban economy flourished under the Ashoka Empire. Trade and commerce was prosperous. There were guilds or organizations in which merchants and craftsmen operated in an organized manner. There were superintendents to collect the specific taxes which covered many areas. There was also widespread use of currency during the period.